Welcome back to Thrash Reviews, where yours truly, Thrash Maniac 99, reviews upcoming hard rock and heavy metal albums in the calendar year of 2016. Welcome back. And today I am reviewing an album that came out pretty early in the year that I didn't get to. This is actually one of the first major metal albums that came out back in the early part of January 8th if I'm right. The newest album from Toronto heavy metal band Cauldron, and it's called In Ruin. Cauldron I discovered because of watching on Banger Films' YouTube channel, which, by the way, there will be a link in the description. Go check them out. Sam Dunn is a genius when it comes to his metal, and also does a great job with documentaries and live shows, and every Thursday, for the most part, he does a live stream called Lock Horns, where he and a guest, as well as us, the fans of him, debate over who belongs in what subgenre of heavy metal on the heavy metal family tree. Very good stuff. Go check them out. Link in the description box. On one episode of Lock Horns they did recently for Power Metal, Jason, I believe his name is Jason Avery, if I am correct, who's a member of Cauldron, appeared as a guest for that episode, and and I discovered Cauldron because of that, and also learning that recently the band had a very bad bus accident where their guitar player got pretty badly hurt, but they're back in full steam, making music again, and they made an album for early this year called In Ruin. So it's time for me to examine it and see how the music of Cauldron really is, since this is the first time I've listened to them. The first track I want to talk about is Empress, and obviously you can tell this band is highly influenced by the classic heavy metal days of like the 1970s, early 1980s. I can tell the influences of bands like Van Halen, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, even Iron Maiden to some degree. I can hear a lot of those influences within the music. Empress, to me, has a more Judas Priest kind of influence on it, and this is what me, as well as even people like Cover Killer Nation and so many other heavy metal people heavy metal fans who review music, feel that how recently bands seem to start to go back to that old school style, as well as keeping it fresh. I've talked about with like Dark Throne with their latest release, the Underground Resistance a few years ago. Even Hailstorm to some degrees, up until they hit a bit of a funk with Into the Wildlife, and Avenged Sevenfold on Hail to the King, sort of going in that direction. It's like bands are trying to revive that idea of classic heavy metal, but make it sound fresh, and I can tell with a track like this, as well as the majority of the album, the way these guys are performing and the way they're writing their music is definitely sounds like some we've heard before, but they make it sound fresh. That's the key about it, is that it sounds fresh no matter what you think. And with Empress, and even a track such as Burning at Both Ends, definitely bring in that classic metal and even at times a speed metal influence thrown in there, and that's how you get the music that Cauldron makes. The next track I want to talk about is Hold Your Fire, and there's a lot of Van Halen influence on this with guitars, the tone behind it, and also some influences here and there of Iron Maiden even thrown into this track. And this song was very well executed. I really enjoyed this track a whole lot. The next track I want to talk about is Corridors of Dust. Corridors of Dust is one of the longest tracks of the album, at about 6 minutes in length, and wow. This is one of the best songs of the entire record, just again bringing in some of that speed metal influence with some Judas Priest, and even a little bit of Anvil thrown into the mix, like early 80s Anvil, like from like Hard and Heavy, Metal on Metal, and Forged in Fire, those three classic Anvil records. I can hear a little bit of that influence on tracks like this. But the final track I want to talk about is DELUSIVE Serenade, which is the longest track of the album at 6.5 minutes, and it's an instrumental, and it's a fantastic instrumental track. You can tell Cauldron, like I've said before, bringing back that idea of old school metal, but make it sound fresh as well as and it's creatively done. And this instrumental is very diverse with some acoustic guitars that kind of sound similar to, say, maybe some like acoustic parts from Metallica, maybe even a little bit of acoustic stuff from like Megadeth, kind of bringing in that with some heavy tones in there, say influence from like I said before, Judas Priest, Van Halen, kind of bringing that into this mix, and it was executed perfectly. So with that said, what is the final verdict? Well, this whole album, top to bottom, is very solid, really well done. A few tracks, like the bookend tracks, kind of didn't stimulate me too much, but that's a very minor complaint about this album. Most of the tracks on this album, aside from a couple that, like I said, the bookend tracks were kind of not 100% sold on me, but for the most part, this album was fantastic. If I were to give this a score, I would probably give this an 86 out of 100. Again, newer bands are I can tell from, like I've said before, from Dark Throne with their last album, Hailstorm's first couple albums, Avenged Sevenfold's recent album, and as well as probably some others, and Ghost is a great example. These are bands who are trying to bring back that idea of playing old school metal and make it sound fresh. And that's what this album is. And also, note the production sounds like it was recorded back in the early 80s. It's raw, and they're playing from their hearts, and that's what makes this album for me. 86 out of 100 for In Ruin by Cauldron. What did you guys think of this album? Leave a comment down below, and there you have it. And again, go subscribe to Banger Films. Check out Lock Horns Thursday afternoon. And I'm not sure what episode they're doing or for what genre they're going for, but I'm going to be a part of that in the comments. It's going to be a lot of fun. And until next time, peace out, and have a good Monday night.